spotlights will beam yet again on Ondo State. Since the court's judgment in 2008 that removed Olusegun Agagu as governor and ushered Femi Mimiko in as Ondo State's governor, Ondo State has held its gubernatorial election off the cycle of the conventional alignment by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. As momentum builds up to Saturday, November 16 gubernatorial election, 17 political parties and their standard bearers have just one target, which is to occupy the government house in Alagbaka, Akure, and steer the wheels of governance in the state for the next 4 years. With 2,053,061 registered voters, Ondo will have a voice on Saturday, and the leading aspirants will hope to make hay while the sun shines on the Sunshine State. Welcome to Ondo Decides Studio on the Nigerian Television Authority. We are live in Abuja. I'm Ayodeji Makinde. In Ondo State, the capital, which is Akure, my colleagues Jude Abugu and Ayodeji Ogunshaki are on ground to coordinate developments, especially from the town hall meeting. Also in the situation room, Tayo Osho will be giving us updates as events unfold and news breaks. All right, before the dawn of the election, let's set the discussion and here in our Abuja and Akure studio. Well, in Abuja, I have with me Nick Dezang, is the former director of Voter Education, Independent National Electoral Commission. Of course, I expect to be joined by other guests here in Abuja. But let's go over to Akure, the Ondo State capital, where, of course, I'm sure the guests would be joining us, of course, to give us their own insights as we build up to this off-cycle election in the Sunshine State, Ondo State. Well, Nick, it's good to always have you around. You with your vast experience and, of course, knowledge of the electoral process in the country. Just some weeks ago, we were here to have the Edo State governorship election. Now it's the turn of Ondo.
Yes.
Surely it's going to be a big one for the key players heading into the polls on Saturday.
Yes, certainly it will. And from those who have observed the process, the long-term observers who had been on ground before now would have observed that the campaigns were not particularly robust as they were in Edo State. And I always like to say that Edo State seems to set the tone and the pace for the conduct of elections in Ondo, perhaps on account of the contiguity, the closeness, the proximity, and so on. And that, of course, in the last 2-3 election cycles, you would have seen that the conduct of the off-cycle governorship election, particularly in Edo State, was preceded by violent rhetoric by politicians. But you don't see the same kind of bellicose rhetoric in Ondo State. And even before now, and until a few days ago, when there were isolated cases of violence and so on, the campaigns in Ondo State have been relatively peaceful. And if you also look at the collection of permanent voter cards, the collection is very impressive. Out of more than 2 million registered voters, not less than 1,757,000 registered voters have collected their voter cards. Now, it is too early, it's preposterous for us to say whether this impressive collection of permanent voter cards will translate into high voter turnout. But as we saw in Edo State, where there was also an impressive collection of PVCs, And in fact, the same percentage, 85.6% collection rate in the two states. But we saw that the turnout on election day was dismal. And even though it rained throughout Edo State, and the citizens of Edo State, demonstrated a lot of resilience on election day, we hope that the same kind of resilience will play out in the Sunshine State. And we also hope that the Commission will also take into consideration the challenges, the peculiar terrain of Ondo State. As you very well know, one or two local governments, Ondo and Ilaje, are riverine. And in fact, one of the rivers, that is the Alape River, runs from Ilaje up to the Bight of Benin in the Atlantic. And it terminates in both Lekki and Apapa in Lagos. So you have a large stretch of inland waterway that has to be secured by the Navy, by the Marine Police. They need also to provide security for ad hoc staff who are going to conduct these elections. And in time past, like I said earlier on, we have seen a number of mishaps taking place from 2016 to 2020 to 2019. In fact, in 2020, 3 boats that were ferrying ad hoc staff to conduct election in Isedo capsized. But for the intervention of the Navy, perhaps we would have lost lives. But mercifully, no life was lost. There were a number of injuries, but part of it had to do with the fact that the ad hoc staff did not depart for the polling units on time. And you could see that this late commencement of polls hallmarked and framed the conduct of the Edo governorship election. And we hope that in tomorrow's election, we hope to see a remarkable improvement. I keep saying that logistics, which has proved to be a perennial challenge, has now assumed the proportion of the elephant in the house. And then, of course, we hope that the security agencies will demonstrate or show the kind of professionalism that they did in Edo State, and that in cognizance of the fact that collation centers are the weakest chain in the process, that the collation centers will be fortified, as against what happened in Edo State, where when collation was to begin, it was moved to the annexed state office as against there being conducted or being carried out in the relevant or designated collation centers. And that also raised eyebrows with regard to the integrity of that election. So my take is that tomorrow's election should be better. ANEC should begin strong and end strong. We hope to see a situation where ANEC, which has been having trust issues with stakeholders, will use this opportunity to conduct an election that is superlative in terms of integrity, in terms of transparency, and so that it begins to earn the trust of Nigerians, and also so that we begin to conduct elections that are stellar, and then that will pave the way for excellent elections subsequently. So these are the things we hope to see. And as we speak now, I expect that sensitive materials would have arrived at the 203 wards, registration area centers across the state. And that this night, most of the ad hoc staff and the permanent staff will sleep in the super racks, the cluster of racks where the ad hoc staff, the security agencies, and so on will stay overnight. And then in the morning, they will depart, to the various polling units. And that also, tomorrow morning, we hope that the security agencies will refrain from this tendency to begin to conduct parades on election day. They need to be mindful of the fact that elections are governed by timelines. polling units need to open between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. And you cannot open these polling units in time when you are beginning to conduct parades on the same day.
That will be one of the background things that we'll still have to look into, because it promises to be quite an interesting conversation over the next 24 hours as the people of Ondo State go to the polls. But while we'll count down to D-Day on Saturday, Ondo State's governorship election is the last in the series of by-elections in the year 2024. Correspondent Mayor Ogidi in this report reminds us some political developments in Ondo State and efforts to make the 2024 Ondo governorship election a seamless one by various stakeholders.
Political sunrise in the sunshine state of Ondo, created in 1976, ruled by 12 military administrators, governed by 7 civilian governors, a state with sweet bitter political history. Out of the 7 civilian governors, only one, Olusegun Mimiko, completed 8 years in office. 23rd of February 2009, a dark political cloud enveloped the Olusegun Agago political kingdom. Court voided his re-election on account of electoral irregularities, replacing him with another Olusegun, that is Olusegun Mimiko.
We are together in this moving train, and there is nowhere else to go but forward.
So, this was how Ondo State got admission into the institution of off-cycle elections in Nigeria. Mimiko handed over to Rotimi Akeredolu. Another sad political situation unfolded. After 6 years and 306 days in office, death snatched Rotimi.
And the body with the power to war. Your Excellency,
bringing into the number 1 seat the Deputy Governor, Lucky Ayiditiwa. 16th of November 2024, another moment of decision with 18 local government areas, 18 candidates testing their popularity. By December this year, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu will be 9 years in office. And in all these years, Professor Mahmoud always expresses anxiety over pre-election violence. But for the first time, he says, I am pleased so far.
I'm glad to note that there has been no major incident of election-related violence known to the Commission in Ondo State so far.
Yes, the endorsement doesn't mean to lose guard of the process, because every second looks dangerous in politics. So, peace accords signed among the candidates, and the general was there.
Election is not war. So please, want Nigerians, especially on those states, citizens, to go out and vote for a candidate of their choice.
The electorate, the voters, all political gladiators, the police side. All we need to do is just to ensure that peace reigns.
Campaigns over. 2,053,061 voters will decide the next governor in 3,933 polling units. Another movement beckons as the electorate rates the candidates. Mayor Ogidi, NTA News.
Well, good background there from Mayor Ogidi on Ondo State. But in Akure, the Ondo State capital, our guests are now available. Surely they've had so many things to do in the build-up to this particular election. And Professor Adedayo Afe is of the History and International Studies Department of Adekunle Ajasin University. Prof, the temperature in Ondo State now surely is the one that most people cannot just wait for results to start trickling in.
For having me. I want to say that relatively the prevalent situation in Ondo State is so calm, and we don't have any cause to fear, because in the since 1999, I can say that the atmosphere of this period could be regarded as the best for so many reasons. Because politically, people are more educated now, and they believe that politics is a game, like in the First Republic and Second Republic, that it was regarded as a religion. Now it's a game. somebody will win, others may lose, and there will still be another opportunity. So to me, no cause for alarm, and people will just, I believe that they will go out tomorrow, exercise their civic rights, and anybody that INEC, and that's based on the popular will of the people, I think the people will be happy with it, and the society will move forward. So to me, I'm expecting that the situation in Ondo State tomorrow will just be ice on the cake of all the good works of INEC and politicians in the last few weeks. I want to say that politicians in Ondo State this time around, they behave well, and I believe that they will also behave well tomorrow. All the political parties, they campaigned well, because some people believe that the campaign is not as hot as expected. No, it's because there was nothing like crisis. People believe that when there is crisis, they believe that politics is at the peak. No, people believe, most of the contestants, they are from the same area. They are from Ondo, South Central District. Most of them are brothers. They believe that one will emerge and the others will support. Let me give you an example. Do you know that those people that contested, most especially Chief Olusola that lost during the primary, supported his candidate. Also, Jegede, who happens to be the gubernatorial candidate of PDP during the last election, supported the candidate of PDP. That is the way politics should be played. So to me, I believe that people are more mature, and the prevalent economic situation, nobody wants to die for anybody. Let me just tell you this. In 1983, that is a reference point, Baba Jashin lived 14 years after the Holocaust of 1983. Omobore, who happens to be the second gladiator, died 2012. Baba Jashin died in 1997. Omobore lived 29 years after the election. Must you die for anybody? People believe that if things doesn't work well, go to court and you seek redress. Mimiko did same, and today Mimiko is a reference point. Mimiko put a stop to political problem in Ondo State because he pursued his case and he was given his mandate back through the court. Even though the 83 owned, it was not because of the violence that Ajachi was given its mandate. It's through the law court. So people are more, they are more mature when it comes to politics now.
I'd like to thank you for your introductory thoughts on the Ondo Decide studio. Also with Professor Afe there in Akure is Dr. Gbenga Bimbola, who is the former head of Department of Mass Communication at Adekole Ajashin University. Also in Akungba Akoko, the political maturity that we're witnessing in Ondo State is a reason and an eye-opener that many of the electorates should really key into, isn't it?
Thank you for having me. Just like Prof said right away, it is evident that this time around, the Ondo indigenes and residents, they are fully aware, they are more mature, and the politicians themselves, they have conducted themselves better than before. Let me just chip this in. If people are saying that the campaigns were not hot, though the campaigns did not really start early, but the campaigns were very intense. Only that the campaigns were not done through the media. I think the politicians in Ondo State, they believe that it is not the national media that will win them elections or that will get them the right to persuade the voters. So they focused on the citizens and residents. They focused on the people living in Ondo State. They were moving from local government to local government, ward to ward, towns to towns. I think that is how it should be. Now, we can see that in Ondo State, one of the reasons why we are having a peaceful atmosphere now is because of the convention of rotation. As I said in the Inside program on Monday on this station, I said that Ondo State people, they are noted. They have embraced the convention, the tradition of rotation, even though there is no legislation to that effect. And that is why we can see that since 1999, power has been rotating from one senatorial district to the other. And anybody who tried to change that narrative will get punished or has got punished through the will of the people. Even the Mimiko that Prof cited, you know, when power rotated from the north in Adifarati to Agagu in Ondo South and rotated back to the central in Mimiko, when Mimiko wanted to leave after 8 years, he tried to force somebody from the central on the people, and his party got punished. So now everything is, all eyes are on the South. And so, just like Prof said, they are brothers. And most of the political parties, the gladiators, they are from the same riverine areas. So why should people fight? So what is the use? So the campaigns are on, had been concluded. And we believe that by the grace of God, people will come out tomorrow. My only fear is voter apathy, that voter apathy should not characterize this election.
Dr. Gbenga Bimbola, I'd like to thank you also for your early submission. Let's cross over now to the Situation Room. Of course, NTA's correspondent, Tayo Osho, is already there. And got the information earlier that she's been waiting for the program to start. Now, Tayo, give us what is the latest from the Situation Room right now.
Thank you very much, Ayodeji. The much anticipated Ondo State governorship election is finally here, and the people of Ondo State are eager to cast their ballot across the 3,933 polling units across the state. And just like you said earlier, this is an off-season election, and all eyes are on Ondo State. Well, some group of people are invested in this election, and they will be analyzing the situation, observing how the election goes. And their aim is to come up with recommendations for stakeholders to further strengthen the electoral system in the country. I am here at the Situation Room of Impact Development Initiative in Akure, the capital of Ondo State. And I will be speaking with the head of strategy of this organization, and the person of Oluwafemi Adebayo. Oluwafemi, tell us about the distribution of observers, and what are your observers? What are they going to be looking out for? What would they be tracking as regards this election, which will be opening in the next few hours?
Okay, as it stands at this moment, Impact Development Initiative, we've trained and deployed 3,633 individuals to go on the field tomorrow to be able to observe the process. Number one, we've been tracking issues of electoral violence for over 9 months, and we'll continue tomorrow to see what happened on the election day, because the over 9 months is pre-elections. That is the very first thing. The second thing we'll be looking at is election day processes and procedure. We'll be looking at the commencement of polls. We're looking at arrival of ad hoc officials, conduct of party agent. We'll be looking at a lot around the issue around vote buying. Tomorrow also, we'll be looking at the aspect of the result management. And when we say result management, you know, it is expected that certain accounting start around 2 if everybody on the queue are voted. So we'll then move from the aspect of electoral violence or the issue of potential for violence to what we call the ballot integrity project. So the ballot integrity project is just how us as KDI will put an eye on the collation process to understand how transparent it is, if there are variabilities, and what are the recommendations to better the process.
All right, you've been on ground. Yeah. All right, so what can you say about the preparedness of the electoral umpire and security operatives as regards tomorrow's election?
Yeah, for the, let me start with the EMB, which is the electoral umpire, INEC itself. Based on the interaction with the resident electoral commissioner, I would say on paper, everything looks good. The REC has mentioned that the training of ad hoc staff has been done for almost over 10 weeks, and there were no shortfall regarding the number of ad hoc staff that they need for the elections. It's also mentioned that, she also mentioned rather, that beavers has been configured. They also have extra beavers that they want to deploy because they have adequate and they have backup beavers if in case any one of them fails. It was also said, but hearing directly from the REC, that a lot has gone ahead in terms of voter education, even door to door and all. So we believe that what they said tomorrow, we'll be putting an eye on it to understand if what they said on paper is what will happen in the actual, you know, actualizing a plan that is on paper. It looks good, and we've seen very good preparation from INEC in time past. For instance, from the aspect of, even from Edo elections, it was also said that INEC is prepared, but if you look at it, there were challenges around logistics, which we also warn about that tomorrow, because there are difficult terrains in Ondo State. For us at KDI, we've identified over 62 communities across 4 local governments with difficult terrains, where logistics could be a challenge. There are places where you have to get to using bikes. There are places where it is riverine and all.
All right. Thank you very much. So briefly, so can you tell us, you were at the Ondo election. All right. So what do you think are the areas you think INEC and other stakeholders? So what are the areas you think they should actually improve on briefly?
Of course, if you look at some of the things we flagged earlier today, we had a stakeholders briefing. Number one, we're talking about is the aspect of ensuring that beavers function very well, adequately and effectively, because if beavers accredit beyond 2 minutes on their average time, it's going to cause us to have elections late in the night, right? Aside from even that, we also spoke a lot around the conduct of party agents too. We also talk about security agency that stakeholders generally should keep on engaging in the process, because Ondo State has history of post-election violence.
All right, thank you very much. Ayodeji, I don't know if you have any question for my guest here.
Before the questions will start rolling into the situation room, surely there will be so many things to discuss over the next 24 hours. But while you're still in the situation room, let's go over to the town hall where Jude Abugu and Ayodeji Ogoshakin are on ground. Ayodeji Ogoshakin, I'm told, is also there at the town hall meeting there. Ayo, tell me what we really have in terms of progression at the town hall. What we really have in terms of progression at the town hall.
Oh. All right, thank you, Ayodeji. Of course, the people of Ondo State are counting down for this election that will take place in less than 12 hours. We have seen the caliber of guests we have that will provide expert analysis of this election. And we also have a panel here in Akure comprising ordinary people that reflect the composition of voting population in Ondo State. I'm talking about senior citizens, persons with disabilities, the youths, the women, and the first-time voter, including the clergy. And they'll be talking about varied issues concerning this election, their concerns, expectations, and preparedness. Of course, I'm not going to be doing this alone, as I have my colleague, Ayodeji Ogoshakin, who will be moderating this session with me. Ayodeji.
Thank you, Jude. Like you said, Ondo State will be taking part in the off-season governorship election, and in the next few hours, the people of Ondo State will be going to the poll to cast their ballot for the candidates of their choice. And don't forget that there are a series of elections that will be held in Ondo State. And, you know, right from the return of democracy in Nigeria, even some people have been taking part in election, even before the 1999 return of democracy. And there's this common saying that no experience is the best teacher. And that is why I'll be throwing questions to one of those who have almost seen it all, taking part in series of elections. And this is why I'll be asking this question from one of the elderly person at this gathering, that, sir, what have been your experience once in the area of conduct of election in Ondo State? And what do you look forward to tomorrow?
Thank you for that beautiful question. Election is not supposed to be a do-or-die affair. However, every whatever, who are those people that are to be voted for, they will be looking forward to see the electorate conduct in a very peaceful manner. And my advice to our people in Ondo State is that tomorrow morning when we get to our polling units, we conduct ourselves in a very peaceful manner. We cast our vote as expected. Then, if you have the time, stay until the election is over and counting takes place. But what I am appealing to all our people in Ondo State is that we should not take election to be a do-or-die affair. It has been a usual practice that people do call buying of and selling of vote this time around, I want to appeal to our people that we should be wise.
I would like to take your next question from the upcoming generation, Jude.
They keep growing till they get to the age of our elderly person here who has seen it all. But let's hear from the less experienced. We have a first-time voter here who will be sharing with us her level of enthusiasm towards the election tomorrow. Please, can you pass the microphone to her? You just turned 18 this year. Tell us, what are you looking forward to participating for the first time in the election?
As a first-timer to participate in the election, sir, I'm happy to be the first-timer, sir. And my advice for who wins the election tomorrow is to think about we young ones, to do well and put more effort.
She's talking about young people putting more efforts. I think we can also hear from more young people. We have some of them.
Yes, you know, from the elderly, younger, the upcoming generation, to the youth. The youth are taking serious active parts when it comes to issue of this election. So let's quickly ask from the youth, what is your own take as far as tomorrow's election is concerned?
I just hope that tomorrow's election will be free and fair, because me as a person, this will be my first time participating, and I hope I do not get disappointed. And it has been peaceful so far, and I hope it stays that way till the end. So thank you very much.
So what, from your own point of view, what is your expectation from tomorrow's election?
Yes, thank you. There's the issue of voter apathy. I hope that more people will come out to vote tomorrow. Number two, I also hope that the widespread buying and selling of votes will not characterize tomorrow's elections. Thirdly, I also hope that people can really come out to express their consciences. And the last part, I hope that the manual collation of votes will not become riddled with controversies like we had in the Edo election.
Okay, thank you very much. My brother, I want to believe that you have a distinctive no view as far as the election is concerned.
First of all, I'd like to thank you. And secondly, the honest truth remains that it is imperative for us to understand that I'm not a first-time voter. I have voted at least twice in this state. And Ondo State is not a state with controversy. We are expecting people to come out. I know there is no way. The political parties have their ways of trying to buy the conscience and rights of human beings. But I will advise my people, especially the youth category, because it is based on statistics, we've come to realize that youth hardly come out to vote, apart from what happened last year, which is a kind of revolutionary movement by the youth. Unlike that, in our state, I would like to admonish and implore that most youth should come out, vote, and please, I will say it again, don't sell your right, buy your conscience. Thank you.
Women participation in election, especially in this Ondo State governorship election. We want to know how women in Ondo State are preparing for this election.
Thank you very much. I want to believe all women, we are very much ready to participate in this election. In fact, looking at every gathering and organization, you see women are the most populous there. So we are very much ready because we really want to cast our votes to the person that we desire, and we look forward for a good leader. We look forward to a glorious change in Ondo State. We have been having good leaders in the past. Yes, no doubt about that. And we know Ondo State to be a peaceful state. And we look forward for more peace, for more progress, for more development in this state as a woman.
Thank you very much.
Yes, from a
sister here. So how are you prepared? And are women in Ondo State mobilized for tomorrow's exercise?
Nǹkan tí mo kàn fẹ́ sọ fún àwọn obìnrin Ondo State ni pé kí gbogbo wa ká jáde ká wá ṣe election yẹn. Kó má sí wàhálà, kó má sí ẹjọ́, kó má sí ìdààmú, kó má ti ṣetán kó ní kálukú tó padà lọ sílé ẹ̀, kó má sẹ́ni tó fa wàhálà, kí gbogbo wa kán dìbò yẹn ní ìrọ̀rùn lẹ́rù ẹsẹ̀.
What she's saying is that people should come out en masse tomorrow and cast their votes for the candidate of their choice. peacefully and go back to their home and expect the results. Well, we still continue with this discussion as we'll be going back to Ayodeji Makinde in Abuja for the continuation of this telecast.
Well, interesting conversation coming from the town hall there with Ayodeji Ogunshaki and Judah Bugu. It was actually pleasing to hear the first-time voter there, though timid but determined to ensure that our votes count. And hearing from the elderly and, of course, of those who have been involved in the electoral process. Surely we'll be rejoining you in the course of this conversation, Ayodeji Ogunshaki and Judah Bugu, in the town hall that we're having there in Akure. Now we're back here in Abuja. Let's tell you that the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, says it has deployed 90 trained and accredited observers across all 18 local government areas of Ondo State, targeting polling units with high volumes and prior history of election-related issues. In a statement, the center says it has deployed 14 soldiers of mouth who will help in addressing information disorder, incidents, corroborate fact checks, and help monitor the ways that parties, politicians, and even members of the public engage in disinformation to ensure that reports, analyses, and feedbacks on the conduct of the election are as thorough and exhaustive as they have always been. CDD says it will effectively monitor the Ondo election closely, observing the pre-election atmosphere, as well as election day activities to evaluate adherence to national and international standards. Through impartial, timely reporting, CDD aims to promote transparency and support an election outcome that genuinely reflects the will of the people. As the election takes place Saturday, 16th November 2024, CDD's EAC notes some of the major issues that will shape the election and shares its worry that a possible outcome could be low voter turnout and increased voter apathy. It hopes INEC's voter sensitization efforts, the different campaigns, and the increased focus on the state will encourage citizens to come out and vote. The center commends INEC for its prompt activities and the release of necessary data and information prior to the election. Activities like this invite trust and optimism in the process. Meanwhile, 8 factors including identity, individuals, incumbency, intra-party relations, institutions, insecurity, information disorder, and impassivity have been pointed to as very important in shaping Saturday's election. The CDD EAC also calls on all institutions, INEC, police, EFCC, ICPC, to remain impartial and carry out their duties diligently and patriotically, and applauds the many ad hoc staff, NYSC core members who work to ensure that the process is hitch-free. Finally, CDD-EAC calls on all citizens of Ondo State and residents to head to the polls with a firm belief that democracy will triumph, just as it urges all political actors to eschew divisive and inciting tendencies capable of undermining peace before, during, and after the election. CDD-EAC will continue to monitor engagements and provide as much support as needed to contribute to peaceful elections in the country. Now, let's go back to our Akure Center. And, well, we're expecting more updates. Remember, we have 2 different centers, the Situation Room, and, of course, we have the Town Hall there. But back here in Abuja, I've been joined by a very familiar face to the house here in the NTA. Is a senior fellow for Center for Democracy Development, and is Professor Jibrin Ibrahim. Prophet, it's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you have quite so many things to talk about concerning this particular election, the last in the series of off-cycle elections in the country for the year 2024. But I'm told now that we can go back and reconnect with the town hall in Ondo State, where Judah Bugu and Ayodeji Ogunshaki surely are ready to tell us something different from what we heard about moments ago.
Thank you, Ayodeji, for coming back to us for the continuation of this discussion and talking about women participation in politics, especially with the Ondo State Governorship election. My colleague Ayodeji will take it from there to explain to us what our sister here spoke about in Yoruba language. Ayodeji.
Like what she was saying before we went back to Abuja was that people of Ondo State should come out en masse tomorrow and cast their ballots without any fear of molestation. Then we now move to another woman who will be talking about what she expects from tomorrow's governorship election in Ondo State as far as the participation of women is concerned. So, Madam, let us hear from you.
Thank you for having us here. What I just want to say is this tomorrow election should be free and fair. We women, we are going to come out en masse and vote. We are not going to sell our conscience. We vote for the right person. And we pray that the first person, as in the right person, will emerge. And victory will be sure. Thank you.
There are various segments of the society that are here to talk about their perception. I want to believe you want to ask one or two things from even people from this gathering.
And I know they have a message for the Ondo electorates, and also they can tell us about their expectations. What message do you have?
Well, Jesus Christ is a Prince of Peace. So tomorrow election, we are expecting peace throughout the Ondo State. And I want to appeal to all the electorates, please go out in mass and cast your votes and be peaceful in your conduct. Likewise, all the contestants and their supporters, please let there be peace throughout Ondo State. And by the grace of God, I believe that outcome of tomorrow election will favor this state in the name of Jesus Christ.
Okay, I know you are one of the major stakeholders when it comes to issue of Ondo State election. I want to believe that you will have something tangible to tell people of Ondo State as far as the election is concerned.
I believe that the people of Ondo State are fully ready for the election. During the election campaign, you can see that everything is peaceful. The citizens of Ondo State, we are ready for the election. But I want to encourage and advise the security agency, the INEC officials, that they should please keep to the rule of the game. They should not be biased. They should play the game accordingly, so that the peace we are enjoying can continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jude, there are other set of people that will be taking part in this election tomorrow. So I want you to
of voting population in Ondo State. And the important stakeholders too are the persons with disabilities. And I would like the microphone to be moved to the fiscally challenged person there. Let him tell us the usual challenge they face while trying to exercise their franchise. Please, can you go on, sir?
Thank you. The major issue we are facing in fiscally challenged cluster is maybe the electorates did not know how to do about it. We want them to put the polling box in a place that will be accessible for the person living with physically challenged voters, so that we can able to cast our vote. And I will urge my people outside there to please come out in mass tomorrow and cast their vote, because it's their right. Thank you.
You know, INEC has been making a lot of promises about making voting accessible, polling units accessible, and providing assistive devices to people with disabilities. So let us also hear from the visually impaired. How have your experiences been over the years trying to participate in election?
Thank you very much. I have to give all thanks to God and to Nigerian Television Authority. Thank you a lot for this program. I want to use this medium to announce that in Ondo State, we persons with visual impairment has been going out to cast our vote, but it hasn't been easy. There is no way you put it in the Constitution that we can come with any aid. The aid can be bought, and the person can put our finger on another party. Give us brave ballot. There are brave ballots in other states, and they are using it to cast vote. I'm visually impaired. I went out during the last election, and the person that went with me, I was telling him where I want to put my finger. He nearly put my finger in another place. Before the INEC official was like, no, I can hear him put his finger where he said he want to put his vote. And if he even put my hand in my finger in another place, how will I know? But if there is what I can use, give it to me. So we are praying that INEC will consider this, so that we persons with visual impairment will not just be voting for voting sake, but we vote our mind. Thank you very much.
I know that INEC will make provision for braille ballot, like we experienced in Edo State. And maybe, I believe they have been doing that even in 2023 general elections. We saw that in the field. But also, let's hear more from persons with disabilities. Ayodeji.
Yes, no. Visually impaired, the challenge is talking about what they expect from the Independent National Electoral Commission. I want to believe that another set of the people living with disability equally have their own challenge. That's talking with person with albinism. So, sir, what is your own perception about the conduct of election? Now, what do you expect from tomorrow's election?
Well, good evening, everyone. I really thank God for this town hall meeting that come up. I really thank Ondo State's NTA for what you are doing. Also, the INEC. What I'm expecting tomorrow, I'm expecting good, free and fair election from Ondo State, also from INEC. In the last 3-4 times election, my people are not be able to go out, to come out, enjoy, to come and vote, just because of our view. You understand? But some years back now, INEC have improved, providing magnified glasses for us to use it to cast our votes. But I see that some issues are still happening now that I will mention. The last election, the complaint, because I'm the state chairman, AAN, in this state. So the issue that my people complain to me is that the Beavers machine rejected some of my members just because of it can't capture them. You understand? So, but I've complained to INEC so many times that they say that they will make the correction. I went to INEC office, then they have changed it. So I really thank them.
We believe that INEC, they are watching and they are listening to some of these concerns being raised, and we expect that something differently will happen tomorrow. Ayodeji, where do we take it from here? Let's look at voter education and issue of security.
All right.
There have been a lot of deployment in and around Akure and other areas in Ondo State.
Okay, let me ask from this one of our fathers in the house. Sir, Eliba Asoni Yoruba, kí ni nǹkan tẹ́ rò pé ó jẹ́ ojúṣe àwa ará ìlú gẹ́gẹ́ bí ètò ìdìbò ọ̀la bó ṣe ń bọ̀? So what I'm asking is what should be the duties of the people of Ondo State as far as tomorrow's election is concerned?
Well, election all over the world, Ondo State inclusive, should not be a do or die affair. And that is why I'm advocating now that by tomorrow, the electorate should come out en masse and vote. Security too should be placed on the alert so that we don't allow these thugs, I'm sorry to say this, to have their to have their way tomorrow. They should be checkmated anywhere there is maybe signs, of their operation. Then too, somebody we are to vote for, at least this dividend of democracy, and it must be for everybody. Everybody should have a right to this dividend of democracy and not to a select few. So that's my advice.
You also also hear from our panelists here to tell us, going by the level of voter education we had during the electioneering, no exercise is tomorrow. Do you think that people of Ondo State, the electorates, are fully aware of the process, the procedure, starting from when they get to the polling unit tomorrow morning? Tell us.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And Ondo State, they are very prepared and they are well prepared for the election tomorrow. And we are sure we know what we are supposed to do on tomorrow. So we are going to do it according and we'll follow the right step. Thank you, God.
What you just said, I want to believe that you've spoken the mind of people of Ondo State. So from here, I want to ask one question. Is everybody ready to vote or cast their ballots tomorrow? Just raise up your hand. So, people, I want to believe that this is a real representation of the people of Ondo State, that they are ready for tomorrow's governorship election. So, I want to believe, Ayodeji Makinde, maybe you have one or two things to ask from the panelists.
Well, it's interesting to really see them being unanimous in their submission and believing in the process. It's one thing that we've always been advocated for people to own the process and also believe in it and support it. But surely, we also have Professor Jibrin here in the studio. Prof, we've really listened to some of the submissions from the people there. Perhaps you might have one or two things you need them to respond to in terms of their preparedness for the election, since we are in Abuja and they are there at the town hall.
I think I've followed very closely what they've been saying about the different elements of preparedness of institutions, but above all, about citizens' enthusiasm. And I think if there's one question I'll pose is that what we've noticed in our election analysis center over time is that there'll be a lot of expression of enthusiasm towards the elections, but on election day, you find the turnout rather disappointing, that the expectation is not met in terms of turnout. What are the indications out there in the field in Ondo State about people's willingness to come out and exercise their mandate tomorrow?
All right. Take the mic.
Firstly, what we discovered that is the element causing such is one, the security. Some people may have interest that they want to cast their vote tomorrow when they know that the security, the situation is not favoring. I mean, the security of the area is not guaranteed. People will step back. And two, if they discover maybe the lateness of the materials to polling vote, those things may cause discouragement. Maybe somebody that be there be around 8, and it's about 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the election materials did not arrive. Majorly, people will step back, and it will be difficult for them to come back to cast their votes. Thank you.
Another thing that makes that a prerequisite that needs to be taken into consideration is the fact that people, I'm so sorry to use this language, the integrity of INEC, they should use tomorrow to, make people to believe more in them, because most masses, most members of the public are looking up to tomorrow's election. We don't want to go into issue of what has happened before, but we should just say that tomorrow, INEC should give us more hope to believe in them as a symbol of electoral process in Nigeria. Thank you.
Yes, once again, I said we are ready. We are ready to vote. We go out with our voters' card, and we believe that our votes will count. We vote our conscience. We will do it accordingly. And we believe that INEC too, they will not let us down. Thank you.
These are representative, a reflection of the voters we have in Ondo State. And I believe the guests in the studio there too we'll be able to deduce what the feeling and the pulse of the people in Ondo State concerning tomorrow's election.
All right, thank you very much, Jude Abugu there in the town hall where we've been able to get different people, different units, different people expected to vote in the election. But back here in the studio in Abuja, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim actually raised that question, which set the template for what we'd like to discuss more here in the studio. Now, Prof, over the years, the system, the situation where the umpire finds itself on a regular basis has been queried, sometimes attacked, you know, all sorts of things. But what we're seeing, do electorates have reasons to have faith and believe in the system?
I think the fact of the matter is that Nigerians are very committed to democracy, and they know elections are a key part of the democratic process. And I believe that what we have discovered over the years is that there's a very high drive to come out and exercise your right to vote. Over the years, however, a number of impediments to the voting process have emerged. Sometimes it's electoral violence. Other times is the threat of disrupting the process, or the belief that results will be changed in collation centers. So if somebody believes his votes will be removed at a collation center, then that enthusiasm to come out will not be there anymore. So there are many factors that play in determining how, to what extent people are determined to participate in electoral process. And what we've always tried to show in our election analysis center is that elections are very complex processes where many factors play a role in how it is conducted and what happens. I mean, in this Ondo elections, I think we've pointed out about 11 elements. One is the personalities, those contesting in the election themselves, their background, their parties, and their relationship to each other. Then there's the question of the role of the various institutions that play a part, of INEC itself as the main election body, but also security services that have to be provided. There are transport providers that need to ensure materials and personnel move on time. So there are lots of different forces that come and play a role in the election. I think there are also identity issues, and I think that has been raised a number of times. The fact that Ondo State now has an established process of zoning, and that with each election, it's zoned from one senatorial zone to the other. And this is a very interesting dimension of Nigerian politics, because it's not in any constitution, it's not in any law, but practically on the ground, people feel these positions should rotate among various parts of the state. And I think it's really a key contribution of Nigeria to election processes. And that what's important about it is that it's a value that has developed in society itself. And when values develop, you find out you don't need laws to enforce them, because people will make sure that it happens. And if you try to block it, there will be consequences, as the example of Mimiko's attempt to impose somebody from his own zone shown. So all these are key factors. Violence, I think I've already mentioned. But one key thing about elections is really, how did you run your campaign? Were you convincing? Were people listening to you? Do people feel you have the capacity to deliver? We tend to disregard campaigns in analyzing elections And what we've found over the years is that how you conduct your campaign matters. That is the extent to which the citizen feels they are convinced by the way you are approaching, the ideas you are placing on the table, and the issues that you think will guide your governance pattern if you win the elections. So all these, I think, are very important issues. One last point I want to make would be youth involvement. Traditionally, the youth have not been very active in our elections, but there's a change in that regard. And one of the things we're watching out for tomorrow in Ondo, whether a significant proportion of the youth will come out and vote.
Now, Prof, before we reconnect with Akure for more updates from perhaps the Situation Room or the studio there, this release by the CDD about some areas renowned for violence when it comes to election. The CDD has stated that there will be soldiers of mouth, and of course there will be extant focus to ensure that there is compliance with standards. How would that be feasible?
Well, actually, that's talking about the trend in disinformation that's affecting our election processes. And what we call soldiers of mouth, which is a rather poor translation of the Hausa term Sojojin Baka. It refers to people who, as it were, use their mouth to cause trouble in society. And the idea is that what you say matters. Don't provoke people, don't insult people, don't use vile language, be polite, and make sure it's the issues around the elections that you are speaking to rather than antagonizing others. We have 14 people who have been trained in analysis of disinformation patterns to cover the elections. And they'll be looking at the social media, they'll be looking at the mass media, they'll be looking at interviews, they'll be looking at tweets, Facebook, and all that to identify things that are being said that shouldn't be said in that manner and draw the attention of citizens and, if need be, the authorities to concerns they may have about certain pronouncements that are being made.
Well, Prof, thanks for that explanation about some of the issues that were raised in this release by the CDD. But let's go over now to Akure, where earlier we told you that we have Professor Adedayo Afe of the Department of International Studies and History, and of course Dr. Gbenga Abimbola. So many issues have been raised, right from the studio here in Abuja to the Situation Room there in Akure, as well as the town hall where we had voters of different categories expressing optimism despite initial fears. I'd like to start with Prof. You interact regularly with students in the university system. It's been said that most times the youth don't really want to play active roles in the electoral process. Are we expecting a change in narrative this time around?
Say that there may not be drastic change for two major reasons. For democracy to strive, there must be good economy and there must also be good insecurity. Whether we like it or not, the two are absent in Nigeria today. Some people believe that people that they voted for previously, what has been their lot? So it's through conscientization that we'll be getting there gradually. And the performance of who is the next governor will also determine so many things. The situation of things in the society is appalling. So the youth also, they are feeling the pain. Some of them, their parents are yet to pay their school fee. They believe that that is why some of them are still selling their. I'm not saying that there's going to be a good justification for that, but it's going to be a gradual process. Anybody that is saying that tomorrow there will be about 50% voters turnout, it's going to be a miracle to me. But I believe that at least there should be appreciable number. But what we are happy about in Ondo State now is that there is relative peace. This is unprecedented in our elections since 1999. No, nothing like attacks. Even though the one reported yesterday in the Dore is isolated cases, and it's not as serious as according to the police. They need. So what I'm trying to say is that the voter apathy is still very there. The youth, they are disenchanted. They are not happy with the system. So the government at the federal, at the state level, they must let them know that there is hope. The hope. Some of them believe that they don't have stake. So we should, our leaders, most especially those people in government, economy is bad now. They must live a life that the economy is bad. Not that you are appealing to people that please calm down, understand with us and some other things. Your lifestyle is not indicating that. When your lifestyle is telling us that economy is bad, the youth we kill. Let me give you an example. In 1983, during the austerity measure that started 1981 to 83, the economy, I can say that, in fact, the economy 1981 to 83, and this time I believe that 83 worse. But the leaders then, especially in Ondo State, Baba Adekunle Ajasin, live a life of austerity measure. You find out that you see your leaders outside now, going with a catalog of vehicles, wasting fuel when people cannot buy fuel to their motorcycle. These are things that is making the youth not to be happy. And school fee is increasing on a daily basis. These are areas, economy and security must be looked into before the youth can buy into your idea.
We appreciate you for raising some genuine and germane issues as to why we don't really have active and improved participation of youth in the electoral process. But let me go over now and join and also bring Dr. Benga Bimbola. Well, you are someone who has been involved in teaching in terms of information management. You were the former head of Department of Mass Communication. Now, what role do some of these stakeholders have to play in terms of managing information properly, in terms of information dissemination, so that we don't end up the peace being witnessed as attested to there in Ondo State? We don't jeopardize this, and of course we ensure that the hope remains so that we can have increased participation by tomorrow.
Thank you very much. We have critical stakeholders in electioneering and in the electoral process as a whole, in governance. The major stakeholder this time around is the government. Now, government is supposed to serve the people. But we have in Nigeria where government is very bogus, but governance is very lean. So just like Prof said, it cannot help. So government must continue to prioritize the welfare of the people. Government exists because the people gave them mandate. And so government is the critical stakeholder here. The issue of information, you cannot be giving information that people should continue to have faith in the country, to have faith in the system when they see that your lifestyle is contrary. That is one. Number two, critical stakeholders. We talk about the family, the religious centers, the school of which we are part, then other social structures. Everybody must play his part. We must continue to preach and teach and propagate the gospel of democracy. The issue is that people are not really aware that their vote is a power, is the only power they have. I used to say that when we talk about dividend of democracy, many Nigerians will miss it. Of course, the politicians, they are deceiving us. They say that if they build roads, if they build schools, if they provide social amenities, that those are the dividends of democracy. But I dare say they are not. Because even the oppressive governments, the military government, they also provided all this. The only dividend of democracy, the best dividend of democracy, is the right of the citizens to choose their leaders and also have a say in how they are governed. And that can only happen when they exercise their right in voting and also asking questions. So we must be able to know that this democracy we are talking about is for the benefit of the people. But the kind of democracy we are running in Nigeria now is no longer the government of the people by the people. It's now a government of the few, for the benefit of the few. And when we begin to preach it that nobody will change it for us. Freedom is never given, it is taken. And for us to take the freedom, we must come out and vote. And after voting, we must not go back and wait for another 4 years. We must continue to demand good governance, ask relevant questions, within the ambit of the Constitution, within the legislative framework. We should ventilate our anger or our protest, not in a violent manner. When all these things are, when we educate people that they have the right to protest peacefully, they have the right to ask questions, then they will be interested in the electoral process. Apart from that, those who conduct elections, they also have a role to play to manage information. The INEC will say that it doesn't, that how many staff does it have? That they employ ad hoc staff, fine. But the staff that INEC employs, they should be able to educate people at the polling unit properly. The security agencies, they have a very key role to play to be able to let people know that we are here to protect you and to maintain law and order. If people know that the security agencies, they will not look the other way, why people are market dancing and marketing votes, because the some security people will say that is not it's not within what they are supposed to do. It's part of maintaining law and order. Once people subvert the system, there is no order. If people know that you cannot try this, then they will behave. And the citizens themselves, the voters, it happened in one of the elections in one of the states, one polling unit, while somebody was trying to bring money, the voters revolted and they beat that person up, sent him packing. I think when the security agencies fail, the people will be able to also do something. Let us all know that we must let people know that if they don't vote their conscience, if they collect money before they vote, they are already mortgaging the electoral system. They are doing a great disservice, and they are giving politicians the clean bill of health to be able to do and undo and do whatever they like. All these things are part of the information management. Finally, our own constituency, the media. Of course, in Ondo State and in Nigeria as a whole, we have done our best. The media, whether in the electronic or on the print forms, we've done our best, but we can still do more. Of course, we know that people sometimes they blame the media as if we are magicians, but we mirror the society. It is what is happening in the society that we report, but we must also uphold social responsibility in our reportage and national interest in our reportage. Once we do this, we are able to also manage information. But finally, the other side of the media that is doing great disservice to the nation is the unregulated media, the media without gates, that is the social media. I think something must be done in this regard, because most of the misinformation and disinformation, they are spread more on the social media which are not regulated. They don't have gates. I think these are the areas that government should begin to pay more attention, so that even when the conventional media who are regulated, they are maintaining law and order, doing the work the right way, managing information. What of the unregulated media? These are some of the things that we should begin to take a look at if we want to really manage information and allow peace to continue to reign and sensitize the people the best way. Thank you.
Dr. Gbenga Bimbola, I'd like to thank you also for pointing out and raising so many issues concerning the management of information so as not to incite violence and also maintain the relative peace being enjoyed in Ondo State in the build-up to this election. I'd like you to hold your thoughts for some moments, and then let me let our viewers out there also know that it's not a quartet in the studio here in Abuja, because Nick Dzang was my first company, and of course our professor came in as well. That's Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, and guess what? The man that would expect to talk more, because issues about where he works dominated most of those who responded at the Situation Room, also at the Town Hall, and here in Abuja is Rotimi Oyekome, the Chief Press Secretary of Independent National Electoral Commission.